what can we start with that we can just throw up without any cost?
Well, I would love it, but we could put, Mendelssohn, Bach, Mozart, Mahler, but I don't know if we're going to get mass adoption with that.
I'll also add that if you're going to put those pieces, you're still going to have to compensate the composers and the people that own those sound recordings.
That's true. That is true.
There's no, this is, here's an old Elvis song, and we can just put it up there. Or if it's a song that was released on CD, I don't believe we can just grab it.
No, I think it's like life plus 70 years, is it not?
I believe that's what it is, but I know that stuff is changing because, families should be able to control the estate of a deceased artist generations after that artist has passed away.
Well, but there's a huge amount of music that's royalty free up on the Internet Archives, for example, or some of the National Library's archives.
So I think the stuff that's like on YouTube royalty free, I'm not sure if we could use it for commercial
commercial use. Well,
I'm not sure. We'd have to look at the license.
Yeah, well, I think really what we're talking about here is, aren't we trying to help artists get paid?
Mm-hmm. That is true. Yeah, but I hear Ian's point. We may need some filler. Just so we're not like 10 songs. Oh, we've got 25 songs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think focusing on artists that are independent and
no, absolutely. There's no dispute around that. I think Ian is saying, let's just get something up there. But right. I'll also add that in the let's get something up there, we still need a player. And we still need to finish what we've built to get to. We need to just finish it so we can start putting up things up there.
Yep.
Good morning, Greg. If you're speaking.
Good morning.
Hey there.
Hey, yeah, no, it was just said now it takes longer to get to the unmute button. Change in the iTunes. I mean the iPhone.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, you sound pretty good. Your microphone.
Oh, that's weird. It's further away from my mouth than normal.
Huh.
So very strange. Anyway, yeah. So you guys were talking about adding content. Is that
Ian brought up the idea of let's grab some royalty music and put it up on RSong. I imagine since Ian has been spending countless hours with Ned on getting the Kai Burnham code up onto
intake.
The intake stuff. It's that you've been having a lot of ideas around that. So, and I also just want to thank you, Ian, for and Ned for going through the painstaking process of making sure that all the dots are connected.
Still being connected.
Yes, I know. I know. So that said, we will once it's up and available, we will share it with the group. Everybody here has already seen it. So now we're just moving it onto the RChain servers.
That's great. That's good. That's good. Yeah, I mean, it's a funny place to be. We really need a bunch of dApps. We just launched testnet 2.
All right.
Yeah, so we're in testnet 2 now, and there's a wild celebration to be had. And now more than ever, we need dApps to be developed.
Indeed. Here's this could be a good conversation starter for us. I posted a link in the chat. And this site can show us, apparently, how many smart contracts are out there in the world, the number of dApps, number of users over the last 24 hours, et cetera, et cetera.
That's only on the Ethereum network, right?
Ethereum, EOS, Steam, Tron, and a couple of others.
Cool.
Yeah. And you can also see there's a graph down here that shows a little further down that talks about the category that it falls under. Almost looks like different layers of the Earth's crust.
Well, it's nice to have some phonic imagery.
Yeah.
If only because it's not every day you get to use the word phonic.
Okay. Has anyone on this call been using any DApp that exists on any other platform?
Nope.
Yeah, according to this little graph here, it says there's a total of 2,833 dApps out there and about 153,306 users over the last 24 hours across all those dApps.
Well, if you want to count exchanges as dApps, there's a lot of use there.
That is
But that's navel gazing, right? It's just like trading. You know, it's like it's all internal to the token.
Yep.
Yep. Good point, Ian, though. Because you can see exchange is listed in this graph, the orange one in the middle. Gambling is number one.
That makes the most sense. Yeah.
Yep, not surprising. I wonder what the high risk means. What is a high risk DApp? Because that's also significant on this graph.
That's an interesting question.
What was the question, Fabian? Sorry.
So if you look at the graph, you'll see the at the very bottom of the graph, actually at the top is what's regarded as high risk. It's kind of like a blood orange color. What would a high risk DApp be?
Which graph is that under?
We're looking at the link that I shared.
Yeah, I don't see high risk.
Then you'll see the market dominance by category, and then directly under that, you'll see the first of the layers of the Earth's crust.
Okay, high risk.
So the top layer is the one regarded as high risk.
Oh, okay, I see it.
So what would that be?
High risk. They don't define it.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, normally,
Finance dApps and risking money, I think.
No, but finance is listed here in green.
Yeah.
normally high risk has to do with large sums of money or life and limb.
You gotta have a glossary or something somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I like that they have their submit DApp button here. That way anyone who has a DApp, they could just send it to them and it'll be counted.
Well, how do you submit a network, right? Because
Greg, what kind of dog is Fiber?
Fiber is an Australian Shepherd.
Fiber is an incredibly cool looking dog.
Thank you. Yeah, everybody seems to like the way she looks.
Mm-hmm.
She's got a really sweet personality.
It's great.
To go with the good looks.
Yeah, high risk may the DApp is not really vetted.
That's the other thing.
That's also possible. Like it's you put your money in an app, it might be gone. It's very possible.
Yeah, that could be one of the meanings for sure. Yeah. it's nice to have some moments of silence. I know that sometimes the
Yeah,
conversation
so
is just,
actually, high risk, if you go to submit a DAP, high risk is a category that you can select.
Oh,
So it's just a category and it's really not defined.
I see.
So be interesting. And it's totally, I guess, user settable. So it's interesting that people say, oh yeah, my DAP is high risk. Whatever that means.
That's interesting.
and since most of us here are into and like to talk about music technologies, there is a conference coming to Los Angeles called Music Tectonics. Just
Oh,
link for everybody. Greg, you might recall speaking to the publicist Dimitri Vitse.
yes.
So this is his conference. He started.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Dimitri
Cool.
was him and his team have been producing the CD Baby conference since its inception.
Right.
And they decided to, on their own to start their own different type of music conference here in Los Angeles. Some of you will probably recognize some of the names on the list, as we have had conversations with two of the people on this list. We've had conversations with a couple of others that I've mentioned to some of you. So yeah, they're doing a damn good job putting it all together. I don't know if I'm going to make it there because that is the week that my child is expected to be showing up. But
Wow.
yeah, but Derek will be attending. He'll be over there for sure.
What's the scope of the conference?
Primarily focused on the future of the music industry, new technologies that are coming out for musicians, for tracking, publishing. It's everything. It's basically everything across the board that touches upon tech.
Okay.
Yep. And there's a podcast that Dimitri launched as well. You'll see on the link here the podcast, and he's been doing some really significant interviews with a lot of the players that have, pretty influential web platforms. And you'll see like one of these. You'll see the one of the people that we had spoken with months ago about bringing on board for RSong. She's interviewed here. You'll see the incredibly popular Bands in Town interview.
Sorry.
Platform.
Yeah.
But they've got some really good stuff happening over here. Some pretty high profile players within the space that are going to speak.
Wow, that sounds really cool.
Yeah, you should come out, Greg.
I might. What are the dates?
It is a one-day event on October the 29th. So the night before they're having a mixer, and then the day of they will be having a the day-long conference.
October 29th is Gurdjieff's death day.
What is it?
It's the day that Gurdjieff died.
Oh. If you're serious about coming, I could push a couple of buttons and see if I can get you an opportunity to speak at the conference.
Let me check and see what else is going on, because the members meeting is
right. It's around that time. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, you let me know.
Mm-hmm.
I see that Vicky Nauman is
Yep.
one of the speakers.
Mm-hmm.
There's some good who's who. Sherry Hugh.
Yep.
She's amazing.
Yep.
Also nice to see a lot of women represented.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did Eric make it to the call today?
Yeah, Eric's here. Hey, Eric.
Hi. Hello.
Hello.
Hey
Check,
there.
check. Oh, hi. Sorry, I'm in a cafe and I couldn't find the unmute button.
Seems to be a common problem these days.
Yeah, so got this new fangled device.
So did you end up taking a look at RCAT, Eric?
A little bit. We had a brief overview during blockchain art meetup on Monday with Ned. He started explaining it, and I think we're going to be meeting again next week to sort of dive in a little bit deeper into the technical underpinnings.
Cool.
Yeah. I've been looking a little bit at the GitHub. Actually, Ned, are you in this call?
Ned is on the call.
I am.
Would you mind sending me a link to the GitHub is very confusing. I was trying to find that diagram that you were showing me last time, but I couldn't find it. You send that over to me again?
Sure. Could I put it in the chat here? Is that good for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Just okay. There you go. Yeah, just scroll down past the files, and you'll get to the README with the diagram.
There we are. RSong proxy. I would have never found this. Okay.
Just out of curiosity, who here has a regular music practice?
I
Well,
do.
me.
Well, just like 5/4 tempo minus irregular.
I tend to play my piano every day, and I try to put a couple of hours every weekend in my headphones producing new music. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm involved with all of that. I haven't really been doing a lot of shows lately. I did a little tour in April, but I'm sort of more focused on this stuff right now than doing that stuff.
And my music practice is mostly studio based, but has been quite regularly up until the last few months where my business basically fell off a cliff, which is interesting. There's not a lot of people, at least from my experience, and maybe part of it's my fault for not continuing to promote myself, but there is a serious lack of musicians making music with more acoustic-based instruments, shall we say, and making a living at it. So it's been my experience that a lot of the artists that I have worked with in the past, I've been kind of typecast as a roots Americana style producer, even though I totally love electronic music too. But a lot of the roots Americana artists are not and that has died. As
Are you
far
talking
as
about bands like is like the Lumineers and like what was those other ones? Are they Roots Americana?
yeah, I guess like my flagship artist that I've worked with is Nico Case, and then from her I've worked with a lot of other Americana artists from all over the world too. It's a pretty international movement, but
An international movement called Americana.
yeah, isn't that funny? It's not funny, but
From the Canadian perspective, that's international.
yeah, yeah, but it's
But they're
it's
not selling as much merch at their tours. You feel like within the last year, especially, is that what you're saying?
yeah, because there's been the diehard super fans that tend to buy that stuff at concerts, right? And they've stopped buying CDs. And we're talking kind of probably like a bit of an older group, you know, the millennials, but not really.
Yeah.
Like it would be more Generation X and even
Right.
boomers kind of
Have-
age.
Have
Those
just
people
not,
were
like,
still buying CDs, even though no one else was listening to CDs, and they've stopped. So that's kind of been the death knell from my experience. But again, part of it's
Yeah.
been my own flaw. I found some success about 8 years ago, where I had a couple Grammy nominations and some like an album that debuted at number 3 on Billboard and stuff. So I got lazy. People were just contacting me, and I wasn't, you know, hindsight's 2020, but I wasn't being very proactive at promoting myself. And so I think that's another reason why I'm kind of feeling this complete disappearance of my client base.
Well, I could probably help you with that if you want some help, like, you know, getting out there again. But also, I just have a question. Do you think people have a problem pivoting the type of merchandise that they sell? Like, obviously, vinyl is like, when people have vinyl at shows, it generally tends to sell. And like, obviously, there's like so many more types of merchandise that are like a lot more popular now. Like, people really like clothing, people really like other types of stuff a lot more, you know, more than CDs. Like, you know, there's just so many other different types of things that you can sell.
Yeah, I think what it is I think it's a amount of spare money issue. I think it costs a lot more to go to the concerts, so there's less money in hand, in pocket, to kind of just buy whatever, whether it's a CD or a T-shirt.
So it's like back to like the income and wealth inequality issue, kind of once again, that like people just don't have like as much disposable income just to go to concerts all the time. And so basically, like, we're back to the issue where if the middle class doesn't have money to circulate through the economy, then things start to shut down. And basically,
Yeah.
the music industry is feeling that, just as other industries also feel that.
I think that's a part of it for sure.
Interesting.
But again, too, it's just the segment I'm talking about. You know, there's other segments where I think you know, there's more action going on.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like the only musicians that I know that make money are like jam bands.
Yeah, it's true. Jam bands have just continued through all of these different ups and downs to continue to make money. But yeah, I mean, just the whole industry's in such a strange state of flux, and I think my take on it is that terrestrial radio is still so strong. It is. Yet the shift has occurred, so we're in this weird kind of transition stage. You know, and I do predict there's going to be someone, whether it's us or somebody else, that's going to figure it out. And I do think it's going to be connected to blockchain. And I think that there will be, it'll be there's been so much being held back. Like the walls are starting to show their cracks. And when it happens, it's going to be, I think, a massive and rapid shift. I just read a headline yesterday. I didn't read the article. Apparently, Spotify is looking into adding voluntary payments.
What do you mean?
I guess they're going to add a little tip jar.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, I doubt if they'll pull it off. I mean, the major
I
labels.
wonder how big of a cut they'll take themselves.
Yeah, there's that too, but it's however it's done, it's going to be designed to be a very kind of small niche.
Hey, I have a question for you guys. I was reminded, I kind of forgot about this, and then I was doing some research yesterday, and I re-stumbled on the basic attention token, and I was wondering how that model relates to your guys' idea about microtransactions and content.
What do you mean model?
Well, separate from how the technology works, right? The basic attention token remunerates content creators based on views metrics, right? Which in and of itself, I mean, you could be problematic if there's click farms and stuff like that. But basically, they're using these tokens within the Brave browser. So the browser is the sort of DRM framework, right, for viewing content. And how?
So as far as I understand, don't you scroll around on Brave and then you get these tokens and then you're supposed to donate them back to the publishers of content? Like, I don't understand how the model really works, because once you get paid in the tokens, what, you just dump them on the exchange? Like, what's the real reason to send them back to the publishers of the content? Like, I don't really get the Brave model.
I thought it was like automatic payments, like almost like the same, similar to what ERC 888 was doing like last summer. I don't know if they're still around. Where it was sort of like you're using tokens to like a use value token to unlock content, right? Or like a fraction of like a basic attention token. Let's say, I don't know how much it's worth on the secondary market right now, but like a fraction of that token that gets used to pay someone. So you basically buy a token that enables you to view content. I don't really know how it works. I guess that's why I'm asking you guys if maybe you guys understood how it worked and how it compared to what your concept was.
It is automatic. So basically, you get payments, and then Brave will take your visited websites and distribute to them your monthly contributions based on the time spent on each website. So basically, that's how it works.
So it's based. So the micropayment is predicated on the time that you spend on an article. So it's almost like a timer. So if you leave an article up for 3 hours while you go and make a sandwich, you're paying for that content time.
Well, you're not paying anything. Like, you're getting these tokens automatically, and then you can disable which ones you don't want to send the tokens back to. Right? Does that make sense?
Oh, so if you don't want to pay for content, you don't have to?
Yeah, for certain. Well, the thing is, I don't think you get a choice to withdraw these tokens. I think you just get a balance into your browser, and then you go into your payments page, and then you pay the ones that you want to pay, and disable the ones you don't want to pay. You don't get to like take them out of the Brave built-in browser wallet. That's why I don't really understand the system. Like, it's very strange.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the whole thing kind of went away a year or two ago. Like, everyone was
Absolutely
saying,
not, bro. They're listed on Coinbase. I believe aren't they listed on Coinbase?
Yeah, they are.
They're not going away anytime soon.
Or maybe, I don't know, just people were sort of talking in like the New York blockchain scene that like ERC 888 was really going to be the real deal, and like the basic attention token had all these problems and blah blah blah. But I haven't been following it, honestly, so I don't know. But it seems like a really interesting framework to explore if it could be modified to suit different types of content purposes.
Yeah, another thing that's interesting about the whole BAT and Brave browser concept is it looks like they're planning on, I don't think they're doing it yet, but they're planning on involving some type of an advertising model as well. And an advertising model where the money goes to the advertisee I think, to some degree. But it's pretty vague.
It's still vague. Like they haven't actually nailed this down, the mechanics yet. Like they're like, it's like there's someone was saying, it was like something I came across was that HTC is going to be creating a crypto phone that has the Brave browser preloaded on it.
Wow.
It's called the Exodus. I had no idea. It was just, this was actually where was I? I think I may have actually been in like a Wikipedia article or something, and they mentioned the Exodus 1, which is this HTC phone, which has like, I think something about the phone, it can act like a cold storage for your crypto wallet.
Opera already has that. It already exists.
Wait, what does Opera already have?
Opera is a browser, internet.
I know it's a browser, but what does it do that you're saying?
When it's you can store tokens directly in the browser.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
You don't need to plug in like MetaMask or anything?
No.
Oh, that's interesting.
But Eric, aren't you talking about an actual hardware device that has almost like a hardware wallet built into it? A phone that has a hardware.
Apparently, apparently that's gonna be built in, which they were saying like, oh, it could be kind of problematic because then people are really gonna start stealing phones.
Right.
Yeah, and then cutting people's thumbs off in order to unlock them.
Yeah, wow, that's gonna be so much fun.
Yes, we need our hardware wallets etched into our skin layer, a couple layers of skin.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, there we
We'll
go.
see something like that in the new TV show, Years and Years. Seriously, it's in that show. It's brilliant. There is a, related to music, Praz from the Fugees has been working on launching a blockchain phone. I just posted a link on the in our chat for those that are interested.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So the basic attention model, we sketched out a much more highly articulated model when I was working on a decentralized social network. So you need at least 2 different knobs. You can't just have a token knob. And so if you have, and this is very similar to what happens in capitalist democracies, where you've got kind of the voting knob and you have the capital knob, and the 2 are supposed to be disconnected, and it's really hard to get them to be disconnected. But a similar kind of thing can happen where you've got a token for rewarding content creation, curation, but then you also want something like a reputation, and that's not a token, and it's not fungible. It's calculated, and it's calculated on the basis of there's the way to avoid bots is you calculate it on the basis of the community that 2 parties have in common. So you can talk about a relative reputation between 2 parties, but only through the communities that they have in common. So using the characters from the show Community, if the relative reputation between Troy and Abed looks at the response of their common friends to their interaction on the network.
So could you have different reputational scores relative to different communities that you're in?
That's correct, yes. But it would be only in terms of the common friends, right? So you're only ranking Troy with respect to Abed. It's not, you don't have an absolute score. Then then you look at the total number of friends of Troy and all of the relative scores of Troy with respect to those friends, and those are all calculated from the common friends. And the reason you use common friends is because common friends is going to filter out bot networks with a high degree of likelihood. Troy is unlikely to be connected to a bot, right? if Abed is a human, then a bot that Abed built is Troy's unlikely to be interested in, unless it's delivering real value. And if the bots are delivering real value, then you don't care anymore.
Interesting.
So yeah, so it's so if you have the two knobs, reputation and a token, then you can guarantee then it's the super, it's the combination of the two quantities that you use to rank content, so that you're always only getting content either that is valuable because it comes to you from a reputable source, or it's content that's coming to you because it's effectively paid for.
Because it's paid for.
Yeah, right. That at the end of the day, content that has a bunch of token behind it can command your attention, or content that comes from a reputable source can command your attention, or some combination thereof.
So basically, that creates that the tokenized paid for model enables advertisers to put content in front of you, but they have to pay for it. In other words,
at the end of the day, it has to be paid for. Yeah, that's right. So
is there a way of like creating like how is the what's the word the sorry, I didn't sleep a lot last night. The not the bell curve, but like the
distribution.
Yeah, the distribution of how much
parabola.
Yeah, like how, like in terms of, let's say I'm Pepsi Cola and I'm like Joe record label, right? From Buffalo, and like the two have very different advertising budgets, right? And yet Pepsi could theoretically skew the amount of tokens required to put content in front of you, effectively pushing Joe record label out of the
that's why you have two knobs. You don't just have one knob, so that doesn't happen. So you're always looking at a combination of reputation and token economics. So Pepsi is unlikely to have a high reputation in the eye of the users, especially the folks who are interested in the Joe's record label. And as a result, the only reason it would come into their feed is because of the token. But if they've got it dialed at a particular mix of token to reputation, then that will filter out Pepsi.
Do they get paid? Do the users get paid some of those tokens to view Pepsi's content?
Yeah, that's the idea. That there's a model where token flows on the basis of engagement, and token flows on the basis of creation, and token flows on the basis of curation. So each of those different basic functions creates or distributes token.
Engagement, curation, what was the third thing?
Creation. So if Dylan Thomas writes a poem and puts it up on the internet, right, then Dylan is the originator of that content, and so should be rewarded for the engagement. But he may not have much to put behind it himself. He's a poet after all. But if curators begin to promote it by putting token behind it, then it can gather steam. And then and then when people engage the poem, then token value should flow back to those who have curated and those who have created.
So Greg, this is exactly the BAT model minus the reputation. So how do the reputation parameters get set? Who are they set by? Are they automatic? What are they based?
Well, I was just describing that. So the way you calculate reputation is you only calculate relative reputation. So this is reputation that ranks the engagement of the common friends between two parties. So if you have Abed and Troy, then you look at the friends that they have in common, and then you look at how often they have engaged content coming from Abed versus how often they have engaged content coming from Troy. And it's not just how often, it's a more sophisticated and nuanced metric where you're also looking at various qualities of engagement, right? So clicking on something versus, you know, actually reading it all the way to the end. It depends on how invasive you want to.
Okay, but in Brave's model, all that data is anonymous, right?
Yeah. So
So
that can remain anonymous, but the system can still make those calculations while the data remains anonymous.
Regarding reputation, and I'm looking on Spotify right now. I don't know how, you know, we've had a lot of conversation around music streaming platforms and a social media aspect. Spotify have been building it out, but not directly on the Spotify platform, but on their community.spotify.com. I just pasted a link in here, which illustrates the top rock stars of, and I'm not talking about bands, but people who are actively engaged with the posting on the community boards of Spotify. I just want to bring this to, as we're talking about reputation and keeping track of users, and so many of our conversations around what a future music streaming platform could look like that integrates social media. Spotify have been doing it in the background. I thought you guys would find that interesting.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that. Thanks, Fabian.
You're so welcome. Yeah, if you all have a Spotify account, you can access all of this and just kind of poke around and see what people are posting. There's a lot of information here, and just people are posting questions, having conversations about bands, sharing playlists, all sorts of stuff like that.
So what do you think their master plan is? Do you think they're planning on, they're beta testing this in silence and then going to unveil something? Or is this simply a attempt to grab data?
I think it could be both.
Yeah.
No, it could be both.
Yeah, because Spotify is not a music company. Spotify is a data
trying to
company.
save people's payment information and figure out how people are, you know, be trying to figure out how people are spending money in other ways or do something creepy with all of that, you know. Wasn't there a big uproar about Facebook doing that? You know, how you can send money over Facebook Messenger, and then people didn't realize that Facebook had saved their like bank account information on Messenger or something. Didn't that come out?
You can send money through Messenger yet.
Oh yeah, you've been able to do that for years. It's
I had
just
no
kind of
idea.
a hidden feature. Like, all you have to do, I mean, it depends on which version of Facebook you have, I guess. But with the most recent one, all you have to do is type the $ into a Facebook message, and then a little bubble will pop up and say, "Do you want to send money?" And you actually don't have to have a bank account linked with Facebook yet. You just send the money, and then the other person who receives it needs to set it up. And then basically, if you've ever sent any money through Facebook to a charity, or you've ever bought anything through Facebook, like apparently they've kept all of your data that entire time. So like basically you don't have to resubmit it. So any purchase you've ever made, I guess they have your data. So you never have to make it again. So like you could just test it, send $1 to Derek through Messenger right now and see if he gets it. But yeah, I've definitely sent money to my friends through Messenger before. And it works. It's creepy and weird. So there you go.
I just pushed $$ on a chat with Derek, but it didn't send him $1. But I do know that they do have my credit card information.
Well, you can. Well, it is a feature, so maybe I don't know if it does it with yours. With mine, if you do a $, it does pop up. But there is a little icon, like, do you know in the little chat window, like there's little icons. You might have to type "send money" or something. Like they have like the little icons. you should be able to choose to set, or like payments. Can you see payments if you do like the little 4 dots on the left?
I'll check it later. Yeah, we don't need to go down
Yeah.
this rabbit hole of it, but yeah, interesting.
Anyway, it's pretty interesting. So Spotify might be doing something like that where they figure out how people want to spend money on their platform, and maybe they'll be really good and they'll plant trees. Just an idea.
All possible.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that there's a with respect to the beginning to tokenize attention, the use of attention. You can't. It's not just about the rich. It has to be balanced against the things, other things that command attention.
I guess I'm wondering, maybe I'm sure you have an answer for this, but what is the use of allowing people to buy my attention? Like, why enable that in the first place? Isn't that like everything that's wrong with the current system?
Well, the thought is to make it more deliberate. Right now, it's implicit. So people are hijacking your attention, and you don't get rewarded for it. If you make that the transactional nature of attention deployment explicit, then the thought is that it can become more mutually beneficial. Currently,
so if I'm a high net worth individual, will my attention tokens be worth more than someone who doesn't have as much money? Because you know what I mean. The buying power is different. Therefore, like advertisers will want to pay more to get my attention.
Well, again, the model that we sketched out in 2016 works slightly different than that. And again, my argument is that if your model doesn't include things that are outside of tokens, then it will break down fairly quickly. So you have to balance, sort of an economic view of attention with something else. We chose reputation because that's a good first approximation.
Will reputation act as like a filter? So like right now, like I'm getting Trump ads. I just got my first Trump ad in Facebook yesterday. And I desperately want to filter that out. Yeah. I actually think it was a socialist bait and switch, because like I noticed that there were about 10 or 15 friends that were making comments on this thread. And I'm almost like, are they trying to weed us out? It was really, really creepy actually. But to the extent that like I want to filter out advertisements from certain types of organizations, will that reputation, are you thinking that the reputation management is actually going to provide that type of filtering mechanism?
Yes, so that's what I was saying, is that every item that comes into a feed will have a 2 numbers associated with it. So you could think of this as not unlike a qubit, where you've got a weighted sum of 2 vectors. So 1 is associated with the weight of one side of that sum is associated with the token, and the weight of the other side of that sum is associated with reputation. And then you can set the dial as to whether you're more interested in reputational stuff, or you're more interested in token-based stuff, or you want it somewhere in between.
What's the motivation for engaging with token-based stuff? Like, what will my motivation be?
Maybe you want to earn token, and to be
so
able
basically
to spend
that.
token.
So it's in a way, it's a form of digital labor. Like my viewing of advertisements becomes a form of actual digital labor, and you could have whole groups of people just watching adverts all day to earn money.
That's one possible outcome of such a system. But again, it becomes a situation where people choose. They don't have to participate. You can turn the dial all the way to reputation. But what you can, with such a system, you can prove, you can guarantee that based upon someone's preference, they'll what's in the center of their feed in terms of, you know, what commands their attention will be things that exactly match their preferences.
Interesting.
So again, right now, the way this works is very different, right? The way this works is that in the case of Facebook, and the reason you're seeing Trump ads is because they follow a conflict model. So if they can calculate that a particular post will create conflict and therefore more engagement, they are likely to push it your way. But the point is that the Facebook algorithms are entirely, you know, set by Facebook, whereas you have it's very different in the model that I was describing. It's
Now,
essentially,
is this feature going to be explicitly on our chain, and what aspect of our chain is this on? Like, what tool kit is this? Like, you're dealing with sovereign identity management, right? Like, sort of some kind of wallet system to manage those preferences.
so this is independent of our chain.
Is this DigLife?
It's none of those things. It's just a system that I worked out with some collaborators for a decentralized social network. And then as a consequence of looking at what a system like that would require if it were run on a blockchain, I observed that none of the existing blockchains would provide either the performance or the security models to support such a system. So I turned my attention to building a blockchain that would provide the scale and security necessary to build out such a model.
Okay, so this is speculative right now, but in theory, it'll be able to be built on top of our chain eventually.
That's correct. Yeah. So we worked it out on paper, and the math is pretty straightforward. There are a couple of different ways you can go at the analysis of the framework, but at the end of the day, you can get some pretty solid proofs about what the behavior of the system will look like relative to desired outcomes. Like the thing that you're trying to do is to make sure that what's in the center of the feed, i.e. the most prominent position in the feed in terms of attention, is exactly in alignment with the expressed user preferences. And then, but in order to get there, you have to build at scale. And
hey guys, we have a staff meeting in 40 seconds.
Yep, got to go. But interesting discussion.
Yeah, thank you for explaining this to me. I appreciate your time.
Eric, check the Zoom chat and click the last link I sent you, and then you can read about the system.
Scenario.
Yeah, that's
white paper. Hold on, I'm just before you close this chat with this thing. Let me just make sure I'm loading them up because I'm losing